Hey there, everybody. This is Nikki Tobias with Grounded Vision Coaching. Neat little sidebar is I graduated with my PhD 3 years ago today. How fun. Time flies. But I had a counseling session yesterday and I followed up that conversation with a friend of mine who happens to be a counselor tonight. And there was this quote that I said that I really wanted to share because it was a neat epiphany for me. So, a little self-disclosure, I had worked at a college several years ago and had an incident with a young man. He was high on drugs, a lot of things happening, and I was trying to manage the situation, crisis management situation, and he threw me into a wall in a residence hall. And it ended up being about a 45-minute situation until the police came and the paramedics came and lots of other things happened. It was pretty traumatic, and I ended up with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And not to the intensity that lots of folks that had been at war or who had been sexually assaulted or anything like that. I don't think it was to that level, but it was at least to the level that insurance was covering it. I met all of the criteria, as they say in this book called the DSM-4, 5 now, I think, that meant I had to have PTSD and have it be covered. You have to have several different symptoms. So everything from hyper awareness to your surroundings and having nightmares and feeling tense a lot. It's just like having these racing feelings and thoughts, and it's hard to manage those thoughts. They kind of get in the way of your living. And so I had all that kind of stuff going on. And so then I ended up moving to Georgia and I did my PhD and things were really getting better. And I did this technique called EMDR, which I'm a huge proponent of EMDR for folks that have PTSD. It helps kind of reconnect your brain, right? So in trauma, what often happens, or the way that you get PTSD, is that your brain almost sort of disassociates your left side from your right side. That's a way oversimplified way to explain it. But in essence, it separates out the experience you're having from sort of your feelings and your thoughts about it. And so EMDR helps put those things back together. And so it was a very, very, very useful technique for me. It really helped. But I came to Georgia and was having some of those symptoms and was triggered every now and then, and did some more counseling once I got here, and then ended up in doing some trauma work, right? And being an executive director of the domestic violence program and shelter and answering hotline crisis calls and helping people through their own trauma. And so the realization that I'm having is that my threshold for the ability to manage trauma or manage my effects of PTSD was pretty high, higher than probably some sort of normal range. And so now that I've been out of that work for a little bit over a year, it's like the pendulum swings the whole other way, right? So my normal was really, really high up over here. And now that I've not been doing that work, it has swung over here. And so while I used to be able to watch certain shows on TV or experience certain things in the world, my threshold for tolerance of those things now is much less. And I was processing that with my counselor, why am I sort of so sensitive to this stuff now? And she was explaining that pendulum shift to me and that it's gonna even out, right? It's gonna come back to this happy medium. But the way that made sense in my head was sometimes when if you got a really, really bad burn, actually getting burnt doesn't hurt. You don't feel it because you've destroyed all those nerve endings, right? You don't feel that. It hurts as it heals. It hurts as those parts regenerate. It hurts as the skin grows back. It hurts as the nerves and the all the blood that flows and that part where you got burnt starts talking to your brain again. That's when it hurts, when you're healing. And I thought, isn't that such a true analogy for our lives? Sometimes we feel like we got hurt in some interpersonal relationship, some situation happens and we feel hurt in the moment. But then that situation goes away and we still feel that pain. And sometimes we feel the pain really differently, but sometimes it almost feels more intense or intense in a different way. And so, I feel like I've been hurting in terms of having this intolerance for seeing violence on television and for hearing about it, and I don't listen to music like that, and even just my language has changed around some of those things. And, so I just wonder if you have ever felt that, or if that connects and resonates with you, that sometimes the hurt is in the healing, that like grief might be a really good example, right? It certainly hurts when someone passes, but you feel that hurt differently and sometimes more intensely when you then experience a holiday without them, or their birthday, or your birthday without them. There are these different moments, these different things that happen that makes that pain more noticeable, more excruciating, harder to work through in that time. And I think that there's just lots of other examples of that too, that we can still feel pain while we're healing, and that it doesn't mean that we're still in trauma. It doesn't mean we're still in crisis. It can absolutely mean that you're growing and that you are healing. And then the best thing we can do for ourselves is to have self-compassion. So one of my side effects, my PTSD sort of symptoms or side effects, is my stomach gets really, really tight, and it feels completely different than any other, like fear or anxiety or excitement. My belly feels different when I'm having a PTSD reaction. When I see somebody that kind of makes me feel afraid, or somebody's walking really close to me in a parking lot or something like that, I'll have a moment of sort of hypersensitivity, and my stomach tightens up. And like I said, I know it's my PTSD trigger, my reaction, because it feels so different from the way my belly feels any other time. And I had been saying to my counselor, I had this real revelation about how I had been like annoyed and frustrated by the fact that that was still happening, or happening again, or that my threshold, my tolerance for being able to pick myself up by my bootstraps and just get on with it has like lessened, right? That like I can't tolerate as much violence. I can't tolerate as much trauma. And I've been really frustrated with myself about why I can't get over this, and why I'm not feeling differently and feeling better and managing better. And, she was helping me to really understand this part about intuition, right? And how you could have like a really strong brain and think really well. You can be a really hard worker. But so often when we put those things together, when you're a good thinker, you're a hard worker, you don't always trust your gut. And why do we say trust your gut? We say trust your gut because for lots of us, our guts are where our emotions are. It has so many nerve endings in there. And so whether it's excitement or butterflies or fear or trauma or anxiety, we feel that in our bellies. That's our intuition. That's our intuition. And so I decided in my counseling session, I really had this epiphany about, I've been so frustrated with myself about my belly and about my PTSD, like symptoms still sort of being around sometimes. And I said, you know what? I'm done with that. I'm done being angry with myself, or frustrated with myself, or annoyed with myself, and that intuition, because what really needs to happen is I need to be thankful for it. I need to be grateful for it. I need to use that as part of the GPS of my life, right? Those of you that have been watching for a long time, I said that I told the universe, if you want me to do something, give me goosebumps, right? Goosebumps is going to be my new sort of universal GPS. Well, I'm adding a new tool to the tool belt. And I'm deciding that instead of being frustrated with my belly, frustrated with the fact that I ever had a situation that caused me to have PTSD, or frustrated that I can't get over it faster, I can't manage it better, you know what? It's not about any of those things. It's about feeling it. And it's about digging into that emotion, settling into that emotion, leaning into that emotion, and trusting that my body is trying to tell me something really, really well. And here's the thing, if I'm walking in an aisle at a store, I'm walking out to my car in the parking lot, and I feel that tension, that trauma, that PTSD, I feel my intuition saying, whoa, something is amiss here. It doesn't have to affect anybody else that I walk in a different aisle, or that I walk back in the store, or that I carry mace, right? It doesn't have to affect anybody else for me to take good care of myself in those moments, and to trust my gut, to trust my intuition, to trust that universal symbol that something feels uneasy, something feels wrong, and I need to take myself out of that situation, to choose another path, to make a different decision. And so I just encourage you, I encourage all of us to think about, like, what is your intuition? What does your body say? and to like drive ourselves out of our brains and into our bodies. Drive yourself out of your brain and into your body every now and then. And like take a look around. How does it feel? How does my heart feel? How does my belly feel? How do my hips feel? How does my spine feel? Our bodies are amazing, amazing things, and they tell us stuff all the time. All the time. And so for me, my commitment to myself, and I hope that you will join me in this, is to, instead of being frustrated by my intuition and my gut telling me that something is wrong, is to be thankful, to be grateful, to lean into that signal, to pay attention to what my body is trying to tell me. Because I spent a whole lot of years not listening, and I got really burnt out. I was about to have my gallbladder out. I was having chest pains in my mid-30s. It was my body trying to tell me to slow the heck down, to stop, to look around, to take care of myself, to do the right things, to manage my body and my wellness and my nutrition and my health differently. My brain can do some really great things. But my brain doesn't keep working if I don't trust my body. And if I don't trust my intuition, I could find myself in a really dangerous place. And then in a worst case scenario, there's nothing working anymore, right? My life could be taken from me. So it doesn't really matter how good my brain is if I'm also not trusting that gut, trusting my instinct, trusting my PTSD triggers, trusting my body to tell me when something's right, when it feels good, when it's not right, and when it doesn't feel good. And then instead of trying to tell myself to just lift myself up from my bootstraps and charge that situation, steamroll that fear, that isn't the answer, folks. That isn't the answer. The answer is to lean into what you're feeling, lean into what your body's telling you. Our bodies are incredibly efficient. They're incredibly efficient. Our bodies don't do things without a purpose. Tears exist for a reason. Our bodies wouldn't do it. It wouldn't waste that energy. It wouldn't waste those resources if it wasn't necessary. The same happens when my belly tightens. When my gut tightens, my intuition kicks in. It wouldn't do that. There wasn't a reason for it. So what happens in your body when things are scary or traumatic? What happens in your body when things are really great? How can you really intentionally drive yourself out of your brain and into your body and feel what that feels like, whatever that feeling is ever? This woman that I'm friends with who lives in Canada, and she's a healer, and it's amazing. And she had this idea she shared with us about pretending like you have a button on your forehead that's an elevator, and that you push that button on your forehead to drive the elevator down into your body. That may sound crazy, but I loved that visual. I loved that visual of pushing the button and intentionally driving that elevator down into my body and getting out and taking a look around saying, so how's my heart feeling? How's my belly feeling? How are my hips? How's my back? What does it feel like to be in my body? Because there's some really, really good clues in there. And it's not for us to be frustrated with the ways that our body are and the ways that our body behave. It's about tuning in. It's about tuning in, and not trying to convince ourselves that our bodies are doing something different than they actually are. That was a lot of self-disclosure. I hope that was okay with all of you. I'd be interested to hear from you. And if any of you have PTSD and you'd want to chat about it, I'd be happy to talk about it. I'm no expert, but between myself and the many, many clients that I've worked with that have had it, boy, it can be debilitating, and it can make you feel like you're crazy, and things are triggers that don't make any sense that they're triggers, and you're like, why is this happening now or here or in this situation? And so you're not crazy. Trust your instincts, trust your gut. Follow the directions it's giving you. And as I said, have self-compassion. Be gentle with yourself as you lean in. Be gentle with yourself. Nurture your body. Have the self-care. Do the wellness. We have one life to live. We have one life to live. We got to do it the best way we can. So thank you all. Hi, Angela. Thanks for tuning in. Glad to see you. Hope you're watching your favorite movie. All right, everybody. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Tune in to my other Facebook Lives. Invite your friends to jump on the page and watch some videos, share the videos. I really want to grow this Facebook family that we're building. So I hope this was helpful. If you got value, tell other people about it. Tell me what you think about it. Love it, hate it, it was good, it was terrible. I'm totally open to feedback, and you're welcome to not agree with me. So I'd love to hear from you. Let's have a conversation. I'll talk to you soon. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.